you don't trust that someone's never going to betray you. You just trust that you'll be able to handle it if they do, that you'll be able to walk away. That's a massive key to it. Stop worrying about whether you can trust someone else. Maybe you can't. We don't know that. Only time will tell if you can trust somebody else. That is a pointless waste of your energy to worry about. Worry only about yourself.
Hope you enjoy this episode brought to you by our sponsors, Thrive. Guys, get 10% off when you go to trythrive.com/women of impact and use coupon code IMPACT. You don't know who you are without them, but you lose yourself when you're with them. You're sad when they're not near you, and yet they make you feel shitty about yourself when they are. Your heart wants them so badly, but your broken heart keeps begging you to stop. And just when you've convinced yourself that they're going to change, reality laughs back at you. You're in your own personal funhouse, and the joke's on you. Like the warped mirrors, you no longer recognize your reflection. You keep walking through the trapdoors of their manipulation. You're constantly stepping on the shaky ground of their cruel sarcasm. The funhouse stopped being fun a very long time ago, but you've been in there so long now that you can no longer find the exit. But today, the relationship ringmaster himself is here to help us identify the red flags and break down toxic behavior, what to look out for and how to navigate it if it does rear its ugly head. Whether you are single and looking for someone, single and healing from a past wound, or in a current relationship, lean in because this man is about to drop knowledge love bombs. One of the most sought after dating and relationship experts in the world, a New York Times bestselling author, creator of the #1 relationship advice YouTube channel with over 2.1 million subscribers and over 382 million channel views. My fellow homie from my motherland, the heart doctor himself, Matthew Hussey.
Wow.
So because I think there's different people in different situations, I want to start with, how do you spot potential red flags on someone that could potentially be toxic in a relationship? So let's say you're starting to date and you want to know the red flags so that you can identify them before you maybe then commit to them.
So I suppose there's almost a distinction to make between toxic behavior and mismatches in investment. Because someone can be toxic. There could be red flags that tell you that someone is really going to be poisonous for your life. But then there could just be red flags that we are not on the same page.
Okay,
It's not that they're toxic, but our intentions are not the same. What we're willing to put into this isn't the same. So I suppose one that could fall into both categories is where someone's words don't match their actions.
Can you give me an example?
Well, when you go on a date with someone and they start just professing things, their feelings for you, and you go, how could you feel this so quick? Seems a lot very quickly. They're ready to write poetry for you after one date. They're ready to, they tell you, oh my God, I've never met anyone like you. You're so incredible. If someone's saying all of those things after one date, that's a bit of a red flag to me, because they don't really know you. Whatever they're saying has to, in some part, be to do with their projection of you, what idea they have of you. I feel the same way when someone comes into an interview with me and they're, if they're trying to work for my company, but the way they interview is like, I will go to hell and back for you, and I'll do this, and I'll do that, and I'll do that, and I am so excited to work for your company, whatever. And I'm like, but you haven't even asked me any questions about my company. Like, I know that you're saying this from what you think from the outside, but you don't know what it's like working on the inside of my company yet, so you don't even know necessarily how much you'll enjoy it. And so I think that when someone is saying something that's not been earned yet, by the point in relationship you're at, that is something of a red flag. So I think there's red flags in terms of is this person saying things that aren't earned by how much time we've actually spent together and how much we've actually got to know each other? Because if they are doing that, it's probably not based on me, it's based on an idea they have of me, or just a way they want to feel, a way they enjoy feeling. And maybe they've enjoyed feeling that way 5 times in the last year, and they're addicted to that rush, that feeling. And of course, you know, a classic sort of, I don't like to say trait of a narcissist. I prefer narcissistic leaning trait because I think that narcissist is a word that's thrown around so casually these days. Like everyone's a narcissist. I think there's a narcissistic streak in all of us. You know, we've all got some self-indulgence that rears its head, and we spend most of our lives trying to depart from that to be the best we can be, right? To try and be more giving or be less focused on us all the time. I think we all have that streak in us, some more than others, and some are, you know, we can say are genuinely diagnosable as narcissists, but we're throwing it around way too casually.
Do you think then labeling things toxic is now becoming a thing, just like narcissism, where we're labeling things in order to be able to dismiss someone?
Well, okay, there's something that hits on the crux of it in what you just said. Some people are genuinely exhibit toxic behavior. I think sometimes it's dangerous to say someone's a toxic person. Right. They exhibit toxic behavior. And sometimes, like, some of us exhibited toxic behavior in 2014 and not in 2015 because we were in a healthier place ourselves. You know, most of us have probably had toxic moments in our life. That's not excusing someone who's going through that. I'm not saying you should put up with someone who's going through a phase where their energy is toxic, but you know, I think there needs to be some separation between labeling someone a toxic person and saying the way they're behaving is toxic or the effect of their behavior is toxic. You could be with someone where every time you're vulnerable, every time you expose yourself, a weakness, a wound, something that's wrong, and you do it in the right way. I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And I'm a big believer in the idea that we often scare people off. You know, we have our favorite weapon. When we're scared, when we're hurt, when we're wounded, we have our favorite weapon. Our favorite weapon could be passive aggression. Our favorite weapon could be the silent treatment. Our favorite weapon could be storming off. It could be attacking you. We all have our favorite weapon. And I think we often scare people off in relationships, not because of our wounds, we scare them off with our weapons. The problem is someone doesn't even see our wound because our weapon is so busy trying to hide
the wound, right?
Exactly. And really what's happening is this wound is screaming for attention, right? I please heal me, give me attention, make me feel better. But we like to get that attention in ways that feel safe to us. So the reason we get passive aggressive is because if I can get sarcastic, or if I can give you a little jab, then I get attention, but I get it in a way that feels safe because my wall is still up. The problem is it doesn't help me with my wound because it doesn't help you get closer to me, which might help heal me. It doesn't help you know me better. And you'll spend so much time trying to defend from my weapon that you can't ever actually step in and help heal my wound. And so what I would say to flip that is when you get good at being vulnerable with your wounds, and do it in a classy way. And doing it in a classy way is bringing it to someone in the right way. And it's also bringing it with the right frequency. Being vulnerable isn't me telling you the same insecurity 10 times a day. That's not vulnerability, that's dumping. I'm making you responsible for my emotional state every time I feel it. That's not the same thing as vulnerability. Vulnerability is I'm insecure about this. I'm just making you aware. Ownership is the next 10 times I feel it today, I know you're already aware, so I don't need to tell you every time I feel it. That I have to do the work myself. That's where ownership comes in. So both ownership and vulnerability have to dance together. But when you feel wounded and you bring it up the right way, I would say toxicity is when being vulnerable when being vulnerable with a person hurts you more.
Instead of soothes you.
Yeah, when it actually inflames and aggravates and makes things much worse. When you're made to feel embarrassed, judged, humiliated, less than, unworthy for the vulnerabilities that you try to bring to the table, then there's something that's broken about the way you relate to each other in the relationship. And that then can become extremely damaging. Where there's a difference in energy, where there's just a difference in effort, that's where people have to be very careful, because that's where people start labeling, they're a narcissist. Well, okay, I get, there's different when someone has truly misled you. You know, someone painted a picture of themselves as one person and then they turned out to be something completely different. That, by the way, can happen to any of us. And it has. If you've been dating long enough or been in business long enough, that's happened to you somewhere.
100%.
So that's life. You know, people reveal who they are not through their words, but through situations. And you have to, in order to really see who someone is, you have to see them in enough situations. So that doesn't mean distrusting something they say about themselves. Someone can tell you something about themselves and you go, that I take you at your word. But that's not the same as investing based on those words. You still allow someone to reveal themselves through their actions. But if you're finding that, I'm really noticing that my energy is in a different place to somebody else's. I seem to be giving more than they're willing to give. Instead of allowing that to keep going and going and going and going and going to the point where you become so bitter and resentful at it that when they finally leave or it finally truly breaks down, they're a narcissist or they're a terrible human being. Instead, we have to catch it early enough, because this is a major red flag, right? Oh, it seems to me we're in like month 1, or we're in week 4, or we're in week 8 or month 3, and I still just feel like I'm willing to give to this more than the other person is. At that point, you have to notice that there's a gap.
Do you think that that's a problem? Like, don't you think people should actually ask, am I willing to do this? Because sometimes some people may consciously say, yeah, I want this relationship so much that I want to give more than them. Or do you think that it will never work in that situation?
If you want it so much, you're willing to give more than them.
Yeah.
Well, here's where your feelings don't matter. Like,
go on.
I really, you know, like I remember doing an interview once with someone that had a t-shirt that said, your feelings are valid. And I just remember thinking, are they?
Why? Explain that to me.
I get the context that's used sometimes. Like sometimes, if, for example, you're in a long-term relationship and your partner has an insecurity about something, right? Now that security may be unfounded. It may be irrational. They may be jealous about something that's nothing. But in a sense, their feelings are still valid. The rationale might not be valid.
All right.
The rationale might be complete nonsense, and we've all got there. I mean, the number of arguments I've caused in relationships where a day later I'm like, what was that? What did I do? And I really think one of the big mistakes in relationships is assuming bad intention where it can be adequately explained by ignorance or just someone not thinking, you know, but we go to the worst possible motive. You were trying to screw me over. You were trying, like, you didn't care about me at all.
Why do we jump to that?
We're immediately rushing to confirm our worst suspicion, which is that we are a wretched piece of shit that isn't lovable. Is
that like out of like defense, kind of like protect your heart, so just assume the worst so you don't, so when it happens you're not disappointed?
Perhaps it's just catastrophic thinking. Like you do something that inflames my deepest fear, or can be connected to my deepest fear, and we're amazing storytellers as human beings, so we're very good at drawing these connections between things. We look for narrative. This fits my narrative that I'm not good enough for you. This fits my narrative that people can't be trusted. That if I'm not in sight, you'll try to get away with murder. This fits, you know, if we have a narrative, we will find these grains of these tiny granular actions that we can connect to that narrative, because it's that immediate, I'm confirming my worst fear. Look, see, evidence. It doesn't mean the thought is valid, but the feeling can be valid, right? So in that context, I believe feelings are valid. If you go into a relationship thinking my partner's feelings aren't valid, you're in trouble, right? But the reason when I see that t-shirt and it's like, your feelings are valid, I cringe a bit, is because I think of all the situations in which your feelings are incredibly dangerous. And one of them is in the situation of really liking someone or loving someone and using that as your justification for continuing to invest and invest and invest and invest to make it work, long beyond the point where the evidence suggests that's a good idea for your mental health, for your time, for your energy, for your other relationships which suffer because this is poisoning you and you're miserable and you're giving your worst energy to everyone else in your life who can see that you're breaking down. But your singular mission right now is to get this person to love you back. And you, Lisa, I have heard this argument over and over and over again. Someone is going through a breakup and the other person has told them it's not, they don't want to make it work. The other person's told them, oh, I just, the classic is, I really love you. You're the love of my life. But if there's a but, why tell me the first sentence? The first sentence is irrelevant if there's a but coming.
It's the shit sandwich, isn't it?
It is, but this is for you. This is so you can feel like the hero on the way out. But when someone is exiting a relationship, when someone is saying they can't be with you, you have to be really honest with yourself and say, okay, they're telling me that they can't be with me because whatever reason, but they're telling me how much they love me and how they truly want to be with me, but I'm the love of their life. But you have to ask yourself, if I was them, and I loved me the way they say they do, what would I be doing right now? What sacrifice would I be willing to make? What compromise would I be willing to make? And if they're not making that, then you have to say, they either don't love me as much as they're saying they do, or we have completely different standards for how much we're willing to fight for each other. Either one is bad. Either one doesn't speak to a situation where you should continue investing. But what people will do is they'll come to me and they'll say, Matthew, I'll say, why do you keep texting them back? You broke up. They keep reaching out. Okay. Why is this relevant information? Are they reaching out saying, I made a giant mistake and I'm ready to invest on the level that you want me to? No, I mean, they're saying that they really miss me and that they really love me and that they're really sad. Okay, so zero information. Tell me what information that represents. Tell me what advancement that represents. Tell me what progress that represents. Other than just this phatic speech that's designed to elicit emotion without any form of progress. That is either because they're just deeply sad and they're too selfish to realize in this moment that this is hurting you to reach out this way, and it's only good for them because they can still get their validation, or that they want to check that you're still there. Are you still there? I mean, saying, I really miss you. Are you still there? Tell me firstly how that's loving towards you when they reach out to you. The problem is we get this message from this person and we go, oh, they're still thinking of me.
Right, it gives you the chemical rush that makes you feel good about yourself.
Lisa, it's like home. It's like home just came back. That's what it feels like. You're out in the wilderness, you're in the abyss again of being single, of the horrible Wild West of dating that you didn't want to go back to, of wondering when you'll meet someone that you have such a strong connection with again. And then, in all of this darkness, home reaches out in the form of this blue light emanating from your phone and a set of letters that happen to form a name that you have been conditioned to feel something when you see it on a Pavlovian level. You see that name on your phone and you can't help it. It's anchoring at that point. Your emotions are anchored to that name. But tell me how you reaching back out to him is a loving act. I don't get it. It's out of love. I want to, what someone once said to me recently, but Matthew, I always want to lead with love. And I said, so let's break that down. If that's truly your ethos, if that's your philosophy, let's break that down. Is reaching out to him, if either reaching out to him or replying to him, is that leading with love? Your job, first and foremost, is to take care of you. That's your number one job in the world, is to take care of yourself, to look after yourself. No one is going to be responsible for that job to nearly the extent that you are in your lifetime. You are the only person who has always been there for you. You're the only person who has woken up with you every morning of your life and gone to bed with you every night. On the hardest nights in your life, in the most difficult moments in your life, every time you were in your bedroom crying over something, every time you thought your world was ending, you are the only person that has been there every second of every day for your entire life. Your job, not because you're so special, but because it's your job, is to look after yourself. And when someone is going through a heartbreak and a guy or a woman keeps texting you, and you keep responding out of this misguided sense of love, you are deeply wounding every time the one person you're supposed to show more love to than anybody, the one person that you have custody over, that your job in your life is to take care of. You're wounding that person over and over again. And people do that in the name of love all the time. They are masochists to themselves in the name of love. But I love them. And it has to stop. And those feelings don't matter. I really believe your feelings about someone, if that person can't deliver, if they can't give you what you need, if they can't show up for you, your feelings towards them are irrelevant.
Is that why you think people find it very difficult to forgive? Because they can't get over the fact that they've betrayed themselves?
Why do I think people find it hard to forgive? I think someone we still want in our lives, we have to learn to forgive on some level. I think that it's hard to forgive when we feel so angry, but B, so wronged. If I forgive this, it's saying I've moved on from it. And because I emotionally haven't moved on from it, I feel like there would be something almost inauthentic about my forgiveness. I'd be saying I forgive you, but it would be hollow.
So true. God, I love everything you're saying, dude. And I really hope people are listening to your advice. It's so freaking powerful. It really does allow them to take ownership of their own life. So let's say everyone's listening to you, they get it, they've left the relationship. Oh my God, yes, it was toxic. I was letting myself down. I need to build my confidence. How do you, because this is what happens, and I'm sure you hear a lot of this, people bring their past into the present. They cannot let go of the toxicity from the past relationship, from the hurt of the last relationship. And you said it earlier, right? Confirmation bias. They then go into the next relationship and it's like, oh, because let's say their ex did it.
Yeah.
Oh, he did that. It must mean this is a toxic relationship, and they bail. Like they don't give it the investment that any relationship may need because they've already written it off.
Yes. So what we're talking about here in a sense is a form of trust.
Yeah.
How do you trust the next time round that it will be different?
Right.
I think that we focus on the wrong thing there. I think that we focus on, and actually I think a lot of advice that's given gets people to focus on the wrong thing, because a lot of people say, you have to trust, this is a different person, this is a different situation, you have to go in trusting. And it's like, it might be a different person. Might be the same person all over again. I mean, you don't know. The point is you don't know, and you can't know. You can't know how someone might disrespect you, cheat on you, lie to you, you betray you, you can't know. And if you can't know, reassuring someone that you can trust them, it's going to be okay, it's pointless. Why reassure them something that you and them can't possibly know? Mm-hmm. So rather than try and control this thing that's uncontrollable, that's kind of just a dead end, it's a loop that you have to go on of reassurance, freaking out again, reassurance, freaking out again. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of other ways of looking at it. You don't have to trust someone else if you trust yourself. That's the first thing. And by trust yourself, I mean, if a lot of people are afraid that they're going to get into another relationship, that they're going to get close to someone, that person's going to hurt them. But their experience has shown them in the past that when someone hurt them like that, they didn't necessarily have the strength to walk away. They didn't necessarily have the strength to rebuild themselves afterwards. You know, I had a woman come to me and she said, she had children from a previous marriage and her husband cheated on her. And she said, I find it difficult to trust in the next thing. I said, but you can trust yourself far more this time. Because she said, I was in that marriage 20 years. And I knew 7 years ago that there were problems, that this person was unfaithful. And I stayed in it year after year. And it scared me off of trusting someone. I said, but you eventually left, right? You're not who you were 7 years ago where you found out and then stayed for 7 years. You're who you are today, who actually had the strength to leave. And understanding that is the key to self-trust. We've learned how to deal with certain situations. We've learned how to walk away faster. We've learned how to spot red flags in a way that our 21-year-old self was far too naive to or ignored. We know what to pay attention to these days. So it's not like we have to go around playing detective next time or worrying, are they going to cheat on me? Are they going to do that? Well, they might. Just make peace with it. In California, there might be an earthquake. You and I aren't sitting here like this just in case there's an earthquake, are we? Like, at any point this could happen. No, you have your procedure. Like if there's an earthquake, we're going to stand in a certain part of the house that's the safest and now get on with life. You don't trust that someone's never going to betray you. You just trust that you'll be able to handle it if they do, that you'll be able to walk away. That's a massive key to it. Stop worrying about whether you can trust someone else. Maybe you can't. We don't know that. Only time will tell if you can trust somebody else. That is a pointless waste of your energy to worry about. Worry only about yourself. So that's the first argument for trusting, is that just trust you. Don't trust them, trust you. I can walk away if I need to. There's also the standards argument for trust, which is that I'm going to trust and what happens when we don't trust is we suffocate people, we get overly jealous, we get controlling, we start playing detective in their life in a way that invades their privacy, steps over their boundaries. We start doing things that are unfair to the other person. And we start damaging the relationship for a fear that hasn't necessarily even come true yet. Now the relationship is getting damaged, not because of not because of what they're doing, but because of the way we're now violating the integrity of the relationship. So you have to have a standard that says, I'm going to play my part in creating a beautiful relationship. I'm going to give this person space, enough to hang themselves, enough to betray me. I have to. That's what a great relationship is. I have to give you enough space where you can betray me, where you can do something wrong. It can't be that you only don't betray me because I'm monitoring you the whole time.
Right. Yeah, the threat of it.
Right? That's not, now I don't know what I have if the conditions for you not betraying me are that you're under surveillance. I only know what I have if I give you complete freedom to do it and you don't. So my standard has to be, I'm going to trust not because you're never going to betray me, and I know that for sure. I'm going to trust because that's my standard for the kind of relationship I want to be in.
God, I love that. And when you said looking through the microscope and checking everything out, if you've had a bad a bad relationship and they've done something wrong and you want to learn from it, right? You're like, okay, what will I do different? Next time you've learned all these lessons, you bring the lessons to your next relationship. And let's say your next relationship where they do one little thing that is similar to that, I think some people who have their defenses up are like, oh my God, there it is. I knew that I found it, and they'll bounce. Versus going, what does this mean about them? Is this a reflection? I need to pay attention, right? Don't ignore it. That would be a mistake. But go, instead of jumping to conclusions, let me like play it by ear, or let me see if that actually does come into fruition. Would you like suggest kind of testing a bit like that?
I think that you have to come to them from a compassionate place as a teammate, because that has to be your standard. I'm going to come with a sense of teamwork and compassion that says, I'm not immediately going to attribute, even if my fears are screaming at me too, I'm not immediately going to attribute the worst possible intention to this. Instead, I'm going to get curious about what was behind this when you did it. Here's how it made me feel, like it has upset me. And, you know, rightly or wrongly, that's because it made me feel like you didn't care or you weren't thinking of me. And if we can do that without immediately labeling, without immediately accusing, if we can create just a little bit of space between the point at which we get curious and the point at which we've drawn all of our conclusions, that space saves relationships. And the conclusions are natural. If we've been screwed over, if the last time we saw this behavior, it was followed by realizing someone was cheating on you, then it's natural to see a little bit of it and immediately go to the same place. But in all sorts of different ways, I've been made a fool of there. Where I saw someone in one relationship do something that looked like something someone did before, which usually was, you know, followed by some horrible pain. And I immediately jumped to this feeling and then, you know, made a conclusion. Our brains we have a supercomputer, but that's also dangerous because the number of calculations and deductions that can get made in mere seconds that can take us from someone didn't text me back to 3 hours to they're having an affair.
Yeah. And that's really where I think it ends up being, you know, detrimental to your future relationship. Because, I mean, there's so many different elements here, right? There's how to not get in a toxic relationship. Then if you are, how to get out of it and respect yourself. And then how to not then bring it into the future relationships. And then, like you said, you can get there so fast. And it really can be detrimental to the potential that this relationship could have.
And that is, see, everyone fights for a relationship based on potential. It's based on what they think it could be. Even that person that, you know, but I love them. What they're fighting for is their vision of what the relationship could be.
Right. Or
should be.
They think.
But in their mind, it's still, but we love each other so much. This should be the most amazing thing ever. Well, let's look at what it is. In the early stages of dating, it's actually very important that we miss crucial opportunities to see what the relationship is if we lunge in with attacks and accusations instead of letting someone know what we're feeling and asking them kind but honest questions. We don't really see what's going on because they feel attacked, their defenses go up. What we really need to do is say, I'm going to learn more about this person's intentions. Either because I don't feel they're trying hard enough or as much as me, or because they just did something that I don't feel was very nice. I'm going to learn more about what's behind it. And that is going to provide me with information. Acknowledge that there's a gap. There's a gap between where I want things to be and where they are. Highlight the gap in a classy and tactful way. Look at whether this person acknowledges the gap because it's usually the sign of a toxic relationship if the gap can't even be acknowledged. What are you talking about? I'm trying just as much as you. And if you're like, you're really not. Like, I'm clearly
come on,
making many more sacrifices than you are, think of you way more than you think of me, do more than you do for me. Like, if you know there really is a gap and it is not being acknowledged at all, that there is no sense of someone being able to look at themselves honestly and go, okay, you're right. If they try and make you crazy, that's a form of toxic behavior. But can they acknowledge the gap? That's the first step. Now, that's a positive sign if they can. You can work with that, right? This is actually a sign of a healthy relationship. I've brought something up. They didn't make me feel stupid for bringing it up and being vulnerable and revealing a wound. But that alone isn't enough, because someone could say, I get it, you're right, I'm going to do better. And then a month from now, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to say, it's one thing that someone is acknowledging the gap, but acknowledging and being able to deliver are two very different things. And the fourth step is noticing whether the gap's being reduced.
I got a question for you. Is that exactly the same analysis that you would do if you're the toxic one in the relationship? Like, I can see where a lot of people blame other people. It's hard to see when you're the problem.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to acknowledge or ask yourself the question with no blame, no judgment. I'm always about results, not about feeling badly about it.
Yeah.
But if you're actually asking yourself, what if I'm the toxic one? Would you still break it down like that?
Well, I think one of the hardest things in the world is self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I think self-awareness about where is what I'm asking for reasonable and where am I being unreasonable?
Dude, I'm going to push you on that, because no one says I'm being unreasonable. People don't actually think that about themselves. Or do you think that?
No, well, I try to really look at certain situations, because I'm a very, to a fault probably, self-reflective person. I overthink. That's my problem. I'll say something in a conversation and then I go away and I go, should I have said that? I feel like I kind of overstepped the mark there, and I start, I can obsess if I'm not careful. So I have to really mind my own obsessive qualities. What makes me very good at my job
Yeah, I do.
is also my worst enemy.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is your superpower is also your kryptonite.
For sure, because I'm good at seeing 10 steps, 20 steps ahead. That's like my gift. But when I try to be very aware of when I'm doing something, is this me asking too much, or is this me doing something, am I asking for something unreasonable here, or is this reasonable? And I think a lot of people go through that in relationships, especially when they're with someone who's saying, because a lot of people's initial defense is what you're asking for is unreasonable, or I didn't do that. Like we all do it at times. We get defensive, and our first port of call is to try and make the other person seem like they're overreacting, or it's very difficult, especially when someone's making us feel like we're overreacting, to get impartial and to say, where is the line between me asking too much and me asking for the right amount?
Right.
And sometimes I think people don't realize they're toxic because they're so convinced of their story.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It's more like a frame of reference, right? So it's like my frame of reference is going to be very different from Tom's. It's going to be very different from yours, right? We just have different upbringings, and we've been told different things, and we've encountered different things. We went to different schools, like all these things that encounter our, build up and create our belief system. Then comes to well, how do you know who is being reasonable and who's not? Because my frame of reference is I'm very reasonable.
Yeah, of course.
And Tom's frame of reference may be you're being so freaking unreasonable. So how do you...
I try to keep a record, not just of the times I was right, but I do try to keep a record of the times where I was so wrong. Where was I so utterly convinced of a thing? And then I came to someone and I was like, oh, what? So, blah, you didn't text me back because of this reason? And they're like, yeah, but I didn't even, my phone wasn't even on. Or I didn't even, and I'm like, okay. Like you have that moment of that realization where you go, oh man, what just happened in my mind? Like, where did I just go? I think it's important, not in a way of never trusting yourself, but just in the sense of being aware of how wrong you can be. And therefore, at the very least, having allowed that to make the space for you to at least go into a situation curious about what their intentions were, about what maybe a way that you're not bringing it up in the right way, or rushing too quickly to accusations or conclusions. At least allow your knowledge of how wrong you've been in the past to create the space for you to be curious instead of rushing to the end of the story already. And then be honest with, is this person, I'm being honest about ways that I want to bring my best to this, and I want to be clear-headed, and I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But are they being a teammate in that? Or are all the concessions on my side? Is all the work somehow always about what I need to do? Is it never a joint effort? And I think sometimes that's a giveaway that, we've convinced ourselves we're the problem all the time, but, we're not getting, they're not making life easy for us. But when we're the toxic one, we're convinced that everything they've done is wrong and that we're justified in however we're acting.
Yeah.
And look, and my point is that sometimes we're in the wrong somehow. Like we need to address certain issues, but at the same time, life's not black and white. Sometimes you have your issues, but they're also not, they are feeding your anxiety in a certain way, or they are contributing in a certain way, or they're not being empathetic to certain things that you're feeling, or they're, sometimes it's like if you take attachment styles, right? People talk about there's the book Attached that goes through anxious, secure, and avoidant. The anxious attachment style, typically we're worried about the end of the relationship, being abandoned, someone doesn't love us, we need reassurance. Well, if you're with someone that inflames your anxieties all the time, that can be a problem. It doesn't mean you're not anxious and that you being anxious isn't a problem. It just means that you're also with someone who sends you to the extreme when it comes to those things. So I think we have to be mindful of whether we're with someone that in a way that's not healthy inflames the worst parts of us, because I do think the right relationship has a somewhat calming effect on those things.
That was so perfect. You're so right. Like, it's not black and white. Like, even in everything we're saying, there's so much nuance to everything.
Yep.
And I actually really liked you saying, like, yes, even if we are the one that's toxic, if we acknowledge it and then try to change it, but also see, is the other person inflaming it? That was just amazing. I'm so aware of that in my relationship that I have issues just like anyone else. And so I have insecurities. And I know that with Tom's personality, he wants to like fix things. So if I'm insecure about something and he's trying to fix it, it ends up inflaming my insecurity on it, because I feel like, well, I can fix it myself. And he's trying to jump in, and it becomes like this whole thing. And he's like, I'm just trying to help. And I'm like, I feel like you're telling me what to do. And it becomes this whole thing. And so we're just very honest with each other. And so now it's just like, babe, my assumption is X, Y, and Z. Or it's, I'm feeling extremely insecure right now. I know you think I'm nuts. Like, I'll even say that to him. I know you think I'm nuts right now, but the fact is I'm actually feeling very sensitive and insecure. So what I need from you is, and I literally tell him what I need. I'm like, I need you to hug me. I need you to not try and fix it, because I know this is a me problem. This is not a you problem. And if my natural inclination, my natural emotions will go to annoyance, frustration, and I harden. I don't go soft, I harden. And when I harden, it becomes even more conflicting.
Because that's your weapon.
Because that's my weapon. Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's my weapon.
But that's really interesting, because it's an evolution of what I'm saying, because if you look at the weapons versus wounds concept, right? That our weapons destroy relationships. Our wounds have the power to strengthen our relationships. What you're really doing there is exposing a wound and being brave enough to like expose it, but also showing him how to treat it.
Yeah.
You're like spelling out,
Yeah.
here's my wound, and here's exactly how you can treat it. And that's really powerful, because now I'm going one step further than being vulnerable. I'm also showing you what you might be able to do to come to my aid right now. But like you said, that's not something someone can even start to do. If you go up to them cold and hard,
Right.
that's not something, someone can't even access that part of themselves, because especially if they're ever given to questioning themselves, or they go, well, what have I done? I've done something wrong. Why are you mad at me right now? Or why am I not enough to make you happy right now? Or why, now all of a sudden you're into a whole other thing.
Oh, yes. Matt, I could talk to you for hours. Where can people find you? All your incredible content that you do and everything that you're up to in your courses and all of that good stuff.
I think there's something that will help people a lot. I have a free training that is, if people go to getcoreconfidence.com, there's literally a free video training where I walk people through what core confidence is. And I believe core confidence is the thing that no matter what goes wrong in our lives, no matter what relationship falls apart, no matter what business doesn't work out, if you have core confidence, it's the form of invincibility. You'll always be okay.
Amazing. And where can they follow you?
They can find me online. I'm the Matthew Hussey on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Clubhouse now.
We're going to do Clubhouse together.
Let's do a Clubhouse.
Amazing.
I would like that. So you can find me in places where you can find all people.
Guys, we'll put all the links down in the description below so you can check it out. I so adore this man. I have so much fun with him. So please drop in the comments what was the one piece of advice that you guys thought was freaking fire from what he said. And guys, if you're not following me, follow me at Lisa Bilyeu. If this video did bring you value, please do share, subscribe, like, and all of that good stuff. And until next time, guys, be the hero of your own life. Peace out. What up, guys? Thanks so much for watching this video. If you'd like another dose of badassery, make sure you watch this video right here or this one right here, because I know you'll like them. But hey, also, while you're here, guys, you might as well click that subscribe button down there so you don't miss any future episodes. And until next time, be the hero of your own life. Peace out.